Testing, testing. Sounds good? Testing, testing. Good. We'll give it a few more minutes since it's Portland, right? I feel weird now that I just sat down and turned on the microphone. Not officially started it. How's everybody doing this morning? Right on. Chose to come here to Portland Insight Meditation Community. Could have gone to the beach. Could have gone to the, what's today? The Montevilla, sorry. Still learning how to pronounce stuff here. Montevilla Street Fairs today. And we decided to come here and practice together. Right on. You get to pick wherever you want to sit, except that pew. Oh. You will not get any more enlightened sitting on one of the cushions on the floor than you would sitting in one of the chairs. So if your knees are hurting or your posture is not feeling supported, feel free to grab a seat or a pew. We've got to repurpose these pews. If you like looking down, we have the loft is available now. There's plenty of room up there. I wasn't here last week, but I watched it online. There was a dog barking the whole time during the meditation. Was it this dog or yeah? I heard the cat too. I wondered if that was a cat. I couldn't tell if it was a kid or if it was, yeah. Nice. Good morning. Right. Yeah, feel free to open windows if it gets warmer in here. Please advocate for yourself. Everybody say hi to Jim. Jim's going to guide us in some movement today. Probably one of my favorite parts of the program. Yeah. Wonder if I keep talking about the dog if he actually settles down. Mm-hmm. I think it's the dog he's barking through a window, right? Yeah. 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 And it's just a dog, right? Dogs bark. Some dogs feel like they need to protect the family. And so it's, that dog doesn't assign the preference. It's not pleasant or unpleasant, it's us, right? It's our conditioning. trauma, it's our pain, our coping mechanisms that trigger the response that we have. It doesn't have to be a disturbance to our practice. It can be just part of our practice. It is part of our practice, whether we want it to be or not, right? Yeah. I usually start 5 minutes late, but I'm kind of sick of sitting here. So, welcome, good morning, happy Sunday. Really good to be here. If you were expecting Christine, I'm not Christine. I'm sorry. Christine asked me to sub for her this week, and maybe a request from Jim and I, if you could cultivate some goodwill, some compassion, some loving kindness in your heart, send it out to Christine this morning. She could probably use a little support. As could many of us, right? I mean, that's a big reason why we come here. So I am not Christine, I'm Gary Sanders, I'm one of the teachers here, and I'm open. My intention today is to have fun. I want to enjoy the practice. I want to enjoy this time together. That's what, if you come to if you come to the Tuesday night group, the Balanced Heart group, that I usually ask, how many people are here for the first time, and I have this little pitch about, the name of our center is called Portland Insight Meditation Community. And the community is such a big part of what we have here. And it's certainly the thing that drew me in here. Before I moved to Portland, I was traveling up here from Los Angeles, and I came up different times of the year, and I checked out different sanghas, different Buddhist groups. And when I came here, this is the place that I felt at home. I felt so welcomed, and I felt loved, and I had fun. Robert pulled out his guitar and he sang some songs. I came on Valentine's Day and he played David Cassidy's I Think I Love You over the sound system. And I was like, all right, by the end of the program, I was crying, like tears of joy. I have found my Dharma home. I'd not quite moved to Portland, but I knew where my Dharma home was. So hopefully you have found a home here. And if you haven't, keep looking. We have lots of great Buddhist communities within Portland. There's a couple great Zen Heart of Wisdom Zen temple in the north, and Dharma Rain out east, and lots of independent groups. So if this isn't your cup of tea, and if you're new to how many are here for the first time today? Cool. Well, welcome. Please don't think that all the teachers look like me here. Or sound like me here. We have different flavors here. I am a particular flavor. I know I can't please everybody. I'm sure there's gonna be one of you that leaves today that was like, no thanks. And that's okay. Totally okay. I'm okay with that. If this doesn't feel like your Dharma home, keep looking. Find a place that you feel supported. Find a place where you feel comfortable. Find a place that you feel like you can wake up along with others. Because that's what this is all about. We get to practice together. We get to support each other. We get to wake up together. So, I'm curious, in a show of hands, how many first came to a place like this, or this place specifically, because you were suffering? Because you were miserable, because there was difficulty in your life. Yeah, like look around. Look at these hands. How many of you use your practice or intend to cultivate a practice to help you let go of heavy things, or to unburden yourself of resentment, of fear, of discomfort? Yeah. And that's, that is such a big part of practice and what this is about. But that's only one side of the coin. The other side, once we get to step away from our suffering, once we get to suffer less, once we stop creating as much harm to ourselves and to others, and out in the world, then we start to hopefully cultivate some joy, some happiness, and really a deep sense of appreciation. And so that's what I wanted to do in our practice this morning. Rather than, if you're sitting with a lot of discomfort, please meet that with compassion. If the mind is swirling with difficult thoughts and difficult emotions arising, please meet that with kindness and forgiveness. But I also wanted to set an intention in the practice this morning to sit with a sense of joy. When all this phenomena arises and passes within the field of awareness, and this is how this works, right? Our awareness is vast and expansive, and all this phenomena is arising, whether it's at our sense gates, whether it's external, whether it's internal. All this stuff's just arising and passing. It's impermanent. And so that's the good news. When the difficult stuff arises, it's not going to last forever, right? We can hopefully meet it with kindness or some compassion, and it passes away. But then there's all this other great stuff that happens. We get these moments of, just feeling the cool air from the fan coming down on your skin. Rather than just pushing that aside and saying like, oh, that's nice. Like, drink it into your heart. Like, that feels good. Rejoicing. So during the practice, when things that arise that are pleasant, that are joyful, that are even the subtle things, really allow yourself to marinate in it. Sit with it. Drink it in. Because that's impermanent too. It's not going to last. But why not enjoy it while it's here? If that dog starts barking incessantly through the practice, maybe enjoy the moments between the barks. Like, yeah, he stopped. Whew. Or maybe you like the dog barking. Maybe it reminds you of the dog you had when you were a kid. So, yeah, let's sit with some joy today. How many of you are brand new to meditation, don't have a lot of experience with a formal practice? Okay, cool. There's room for all of us. We're not all... how many of you are experts at meditation? Yeah, look around the room. That's why we call it a practice. So I'll give a little instruction in the beginning, and then I do want to leave us some space so we can just kind of soak in this stuff. All the external sounds, and maybe, today I invite you, if you don't normally practice with your eyes open, maybe try to open your eyes a bit in the practice today. Just kind of soak in the Jim's beautiful face, and the beautiful Sangha that we are so lucky to have here. And maybe that, if you haven't heard the story of how that mosaic was created, I'm not going to tell it to you now, but I have a lot of joy in my heart. But it's a great story. It has something to do with... No, I'm not going to say it. Yeah, with Ruth. Ruth babysat some people when they did this. But yeah, look at that cool Buddha. By the way, the Buddha said not to create images of himself before he passed away. He said he didn't want a successor. It's still a cool Buddha statue. Love that Kuan Yin over there. Yeah, stuff to check out, right? And then, throughout the practice, there's going to be some moments of peace that arise. Really soak those in. Enjoy them. So yeah, let's sit for a bit. I use Insight Timer to track my meditation practice. So maybe taking a nice deep cleansing breath or two. Big deep breath in, maybe holding it for a second, and slow release out. As you breathe out, just let the body soften as you breathe out. Another big breath in, filling the lungs. Breathing out, letting the shoulders drop away from the ears. Let the belly soften. Just sweeping through the body with kind awareness, noticing any areas that might be holding tension or stress, areas that we can intentionally soften, release. Checking in with the muscles in the face, unfurrowing the brow. Jaws unclenched, lips are soft. Maybe just gently touching your tongue to the palate, the roof of your mouth. Maybe trying to bring a little half smile to your face like one of these smiling Buddha statues. It's a good reminder to bring friendliness into our practice. Releasing tension in the neck and the shoulders and the muscles in the chest and the upper and lower back. And checking in with the hips. Some of us carry some heaviness in the hips. So releasing what you can. Sweeping through the arms and the legs, softening the muscles, unlocking the joints. Really checking in with the hands, making sure the hands are peaceful. Not balled up in fists, not gripping or clutching. The fingers aren't interlaced. The hands are at ease. Same with the feet. Toes are uncurled. So first we find our breath. We just allow the breath to go its natural pace. We bring some kind awareness to the breath. And we use it as an anchor. We use it to help center ourselves or ground ourselves into the moment. Since each breath is new and unique, we just get curious with it. Is it long or short, quick or slow, deep or shallow? Noticing texture, temperature. And then the other part of the practice is to return back to the breath every time the mind wanders off. That's the training, returning to the point of focus with kindness, with forgiveness, over and over again. So let's get intimate with this breath for a little while. mind wanders off or gets distracted, doesn't mean you're a bad meditator. It's just simply what this untrained mind does. So we return back to the breath over and over, very gently. Like if we had a bunch of puppies in a cardboard box, when one starts to jump out, we just gently bring it back in. Loving arms. Still using the breath as an anchor, we start to expand our awareness out. Open it up to hearing. Any sounds that arise that you notice as pleasant, or bring up a good memory or a lovely image in your mind. Allow yourself to appreciate it. Drink it into your heart. Even the lack of sounds, the space between sounds. If you appreciate the peace, drink in that peace. And if the eyes aren't open already, try opening your eyes for a while if it feels comfortable. It really doesn't matter in the practice if your eyes are open or your eyes are closed, whatever supports your practice. Maybe opening the eyes up and Seeing the flowers at the front of the room. And the light, and the colors. The Buddhas and the statues, the Kuan Yin. Just seeing all the people that we're practicing with today. Drinking in community into our hearts. Allowing awareness to expand through your whole body, a sense of touch. Sweep through the body, notice then areas that, even just tiny little areas that feel pleasant right now. Breathe into those places. Meet anything pleasant with appreciation. Not clinging, but non-attached appreciation. Right now, this is good. Sometimes we could use touch sensation as a good grounding technique. Get really caught up in stories in our minds. Mind's racing. Just feeling your feet on the ground. or the weight of your body on the cushion, chair, the floor. Allow yourself to feel supported by the earth. If you're sitting on the ground, maybe even touching the ground. Maybe you've seen one of those Buddha statues, the touching the earth pose that the Buddha did. Allowing yourself to feel grounded. Drinking that level of comfort or safety into your heart. Rather than being focused in on any one particular thing, allowing our awareness to open up to all the sense gates, to the full body. Resting in this vast awareness. Still using the breath as an anchor or the body as an anchor. Letting awareness open up to all the phenomena arising and passing. The white noise hum of the fans. The cool air on your skin. Fleeting moments of silence or peace or joy. Not just noticing them, but really drinking them into your heart. This isn't about getting rid of anything or denying or ignoring anything. It's about being able to embrace it all. Really make it part of our practice to appreciate, to rejoice in the good things, the wholesome things, beautiful things. And just ending the practice with some phrases of mudita, of appreciative joy practice. So I'll offer these phrases, the practice is to silently repeat them to yourself. Try drinking them into your heart, these intentions, these wishes. May I learn to appreciate the happiness, the joy, success in my life without clinging to them. May the good things, the wholesome things, the pure things, not just continue, but may they flourish in my life. May I be filled with gratitude. May I learn to appreciate happiness, joy, bliss, love, laughter, the art and beauty in my life without clinging. May these beautiful, wondrous, awe-inspiring things not just continue, but may they build and grow, increase in my life. May I meet it all with gratitude, with deep appreciation. As these final intentional breaths, breathing in gratitude, breathing out peace, Breathing in awareness. Breathing out kindness. Breathing in present moment. Breathing out wonderful moment. So just a few logistics, since I didn't mention earlier. Jim's going to lead us in some mindful movement. Avi's going to have some announcements. I'll have a talk afterwards, and this morning I really was hoping to have a lot of interaction from you all. I'm going to pass the microphone around for a couple periods for us to share. So don't leave. Unless you have to. During Jim's practice, one of my favorite things about this, this used to be a church, right? This is an old building. I don't know if you notice when you walk on the floor that gets a little creaky. When there's like 100 of us all doing qigong, riding the waves and painting the rainbow, you'll hear this creaking. It's this beautiful sound. You'll see all these arms move, everybody moving in unison. It's this beautiful wave of movement and color, and drink that into your heart today. It's wonderful to be able to practice together. And it's wonderful to have such a gifted teacher to offer this practice for us today. So I'm going to hand over the microphone.
So Gary suggested that we open our eyes during meditation and look at some of the figures on the wall. That panel back there on my left was in Robert's office 30 years ago. And that's the first thing I noticed when I walked in. And I was like, what does that mean? Over the years, it's gotten deeper and deeper. It still talks to me. So before you go, take a look at that. It's a really incredible painting. So we're pouring our energy into one leg and then into the other with the idea that since we're almost 70% water, we're just sloshing into this leg and then sloshing into the other. But notice all the sensations, the bottoms of the foot, running up the leg, into the hips, into the shoulders. You can't pour with part of yourself. The whole body gets involved with it. All this cooperation and integrated movement is going on in the simplest motions. If we turn a little bit, then we get a little more activity at the seam between the torso and the leg. In Chinese, that's the Qua, and that's where all the power comes from for Tai Chi. But just the awareness in the body of sinking and twisting and releasing, and then that side that you just activated relaxes, and then the other side takes over. So there's this reciprocal arrangement. It knows how to give rest to one side and then engage with the other. And then if we sink, let the arms rise, the shoulders start opening, the knees relax, get softer, the ankles get softer, the wrists get softer. As we lift, the fingertips trail behind, relaxing the palm of the hand. The fingers are open but not spread with intention or not intensity, and not tight, but just right in the middle. And if you look from the side, I'm extending when I come up, then the elbows move and bend, and then my fingers are trailing on the way down, the heel of the hand goes down. So you could call this lifting water, as if you're standing next to a creek and just drawing energy up from below and then pouring it into your legs. Just feel the power of the earth connecting with your body. And then we sink again and open. Feel the lungs, feel the freedom in the lungs. When the arms open, the ribs spread a little bit, and the lungs' capacity gets greater. And we have a deeper connection with the atmosphere. The skin of oxygen and other gases that is all the way around the earth. It's not our air that we're breathing. It just fills our lungs, exchanges with all the blood vessels, and then releases, exchanges outward. And someplace around here, there's trees and shrubs that are taking that energy and putting it to work. All of our exhale is useful for other forms of life. Reaching overhead, paint a rainbow, opening the shoulders a different angle, relaxing the elbows and the wrists in a different way. And the hips get into the activity a little more. Release. Yeah, you should be up there. And then sink, cross the wrists, and open. So this is separating clouds. We've done a really good job the last 2 or 3 days. Although it was raining yesterday. I was out in the park doing Tai Chi with my old cronies. We got drenched by this mist. It was really something. All right, then move your hips a little bit so you're opening to the side and pressing with one hand and pulling in with the other. Your body's ability to integrate. One hand is moving forward, the other hand is pulling back, and the spine has to do all this interesting stretching and pulling to make that happen. Then the shoulders themselves need a little more massage, so we'll go around as far as we can without any discomfort. So that's the first section of the Shibashi routine. It is basically getting a flow going up from the earth. Then we're going to offer a little piece of fruit to the sun. A friend of mine teaches down at the Chinese gardens once a month. She does this Shibashi next to the meditation pond. And I went down, did it with her one time, and she said, offer a piece of fruit to the sun, and then turn and gaze at the moon. So there's all sorts of translations of the Chinese characters for these different moves. But the idea is to make it easy to remember and to lighten the mind, gladden the mind. We're gazing at the moon, pressing across, stretching the shoulders a little differently. And then reach across with one arm and focus on the palm of the hand. And then turn the other palm down towards the earth. And then bring both hands across the center to the other side, twisting the hips a little bit. And then, again, we're sinking into the kwa on one side, and then that releases and we sink into the other side. You can almost make it a swing set. I used to love that when I was a kid, just swing for hours. But in Tai Chi, this is often called painting with each hand, because one hand is painting with the back hand, the other painting with the forehand, or waving hands like clouds. So there's all these different translations of the same basic notion. The cloud drifts across the sky with the shadow underneath. So that section is all moving the weight left and right. Then the next section, we take the weight forward and back. And the idea is that we're massaging the bottoms of our feet in different ways. Just moving up and down activates the bottoms of the feet. But now, most of the energy is in the front, and then most of the energy is in the back. So one leg is really engaged, and then the other leg is really engaged. And there's that sound, like an old ship groaning, waves. Doing this on asphalt in the park is not the same. Open. But doing it bare feet in the grass, that's nice. The sound isn't the same, but the feeling of massage is really nice. Okay, back to the center. We've paused and just feel the stillness in the bottoms of the feet, right behind the little mound where the toes emerge. There's a center of stillness, and out of that stillness comes all the activity of the meridians carrying the energy up through the body in 12 major channels through the body. Then we step to the other side, splash in the sea, stretch the tendons and ligaments, and muscles, entertain the ears, and ride the waves. So all during this whole system is 18 steps of the movement, the gestures. There's one awareness of waves, awareness of the pigeon opening its wings and cooling off. But it's one awareness that follows us all through the whole system. And we'll continue the rest of the day. So then we come back to the center, make a fist and sink to let the dragon rise from the sea. We have this feeling of agency. Awareness emerges out of that stillness, but it can be effective in lots of different ways in our lives and relationships. Spread our wings and fly like the cranes. Up on the toes. How's the balance today? Turning the wheel. Some of us have been practicing in the park for 20 or 25 years. Balance isn't always so good after 25 years. Let's go the other direction. There's lessons in impermanence in all this. back to the center. Give yourself a little challenge to ask the right side and the left side to do two different things. This is a good day for the old man. That's really good. I like that. I could do a lot more. Okay. Come back to the center. Sink and lift. Exhale all the tension and stress. All the cells of the body breathe in. Don't limit yourself to nostrils and windpipes. Your whole body is absorbing new energy. And once more. Then we come to stillness. That awareness can be like a popcorn popper. Just move from one part of your body to another. Take the most predominant sensation and notice it. If a dog starts barking or a motorcycle goes by, maybe the predominant sensation is not feeling at all. But we have these 6 senses. Hopefully the mind is not caught in a cul-de-sac in the future, running some anxiety scenario, or caught in some past regret or past resentment. All this movement in the body gives the mind a suggestion. Just go with the flow. Let it go, and then feel the flow. And then feel the gratitude in your heart that you had another day to practice with your friends. Back again next week. Take care.
I knew you were out there. I am. You doing Dharma consults? Sure. Okay. Good morning, Sangha. For those of you who don't know, my name is Avi. I'm community coordinator at PIMC, and we are about to enact the very ancient ritual of announcements. And I'd like to say hello to all you folks out there in internet land. And if you feel like you want to do it, because Robert's not here and sometimes he watches while he's away, we can all turn around and wave, "Hi, Robert, how you doing? Hope the meditation retreat is going well." I was really struck when Jim was doing his thing, that in the same way that we were all practicing movement. Yesterday, here for the entire day, there was a group here that was spent the entire day doing breathing practice. They do something called shamanistic breath work. And as you may or may not know, we rent out this space as a way of adding to our income. And it was really striking to me the different way in which people can use a breathing technique to achieve an altered state and to achieve a feeling of oneness. And I have been also struck by the fact that as I hang out with other meditators and people who do dance and movement, just how many modalities there are for increasing our consciousness and increasing our sensitivity. And I would suspect that out here in this group, there are many, many people in this group who have some teacher or who have knowledge of some practice or modality that you use in order to develop yourself or feel more at peace or create more of a sense of compassion for the world. So that would be something where if you wanted to hang out and have coffee and tea with us during our social hour after the Dharma talk, that would be something that you all could talk about. And you could take refuge in the Sangha. Because even though I don't think, I'm not a Buddhist scholar, but I think that refuge in the Sangha also includes having tea and coffee with people. So please join us after all of this is over. So I'd like to say that I have male pronouns in case anyone is interested. And let's get to the announcements. In terms of volunteer stuff, we have excellent news. Well, it's kind of a mixed bag. It's kind of half sad, half good. Kirsten, our long-term volunteer coordinator, is going to be on her way to Colorado next month in order to do her next level of schooling. But we have found 2 people who are going to be sharing the volunteer coordinator role, and there will be more news about that later on. But in terms of volunteers, we always need volunteers to help out in the children's classroom. On Sundays, we have a sign up there on the website in these handy dandy flyers that are right there outside that door. You can pick one up. The link is right there. Please consider signing up, even if only once, to just be with the future generation of this Sangha. And just spend some time in there drawing with them and being with them, because it is a wonderful feeling of continuity as we go into the future. This Sangha has existed for more than 15 years, and I expect we will be going for quite a bit longer than that. And one day, the children who are in here, at least some of them will be out here, with really cool memories about what it was like to be in there, and you could be a part of that. And if you like that idea, even better than signing up just once is signing up for like once a month to just do it. And you don't have to do it for the entire 2 hours that you missed the Dharma talk or the entire meditation. Even if you did it for just 1 hour and you share it with somebody else, that would be great. So other things that are going on next month in August. We have our first Saturday monthly day-long retreat on Saturday, August 3rd. On Sunday, August 4th, we've got our monthly newcomer orientation session. On Sunday, August 4th, we also have our next monthly meeting of Engaging the Dharma Initiative, which is PIMC's project to take what we learn on the cushion and extend it out into the community in terms of mindful action. Plans are being made for the next round of projects that we're going to be doing, and everybody is welcome. If you are looking for a way in to get more involved in the Sangha and to not just be in the Sangha, but to use your practice as a way of doing good in the world, that's what we're doing. So please join us after the Dharma talk next Sunday during tea, and we can be happy to bring you up to speed on what it is that we're doing. Then on Sunday, August 11th, we've got our second Sunday PIMC potluck. Take your secret family recipes, make casseroles, bring them here for everyone to enjoy. Another great way for creating social connection here. For Tuesday, August 13th, there is no NVC group practice this month. The NVC group practice is going to be taking a month off and will resume in September. Then on Saturday, August 17th, we have our Buddhist movie night, and we will be screening spring, summer, fall, winter, and spring. There's information about that on the website. Also on Saturday, August 17th, is Jim's next Qigong half-day retreat. If you liked what he was doing for 10 minutes, you'll love what he does for 4 hours. And then on Saturday, August 31st, we don't have a lot of detailed information yet, but Vic is going to be doing another one of his mindful hikes. That will be at the end of August on the, I guess that's the 4th or 5th Saturday, the very last Saturday in August. So just mark your calendar for that if you like the idea of a mindful hike, and more information will be forthcoming on that. We do Dharma consults. If any of you are interested in talking about something that has come up in your practice, as things do, Jim would be happy to spend 20 minutes with you today. He has space for 2 or 3 of them today. If not today, then please contact me during the week, and I can schedule you with a teacher. Let's see what else is going on here. I also wanted to say that in addition to volunteering your time, which is a wonderful way to contribute to the Sangha and keep it moving forward into the future, we do have a lot of need for money. As Robert has pointed out, with hiring Gregory as a new staff member and doing a lot more programs this year, We have an increased need for funds to keep ourselves solvent. Robert has asked everyone to increase their usual donations by 15%. If you've never contributed, now would be a wonderful time. Every little bit of money that you give us goes into furthering the Dharma and allows us to help transform people's lives. Robert talks over and over again about all the people that he's met who have talked about how he has changed people's lives and thanking him for it. And then we have a Dana bowl up here. We have a box down there. The box and the Dana bowl magically transform your cash, your checks, your credit cards into Dana that helps keep this community going. We also have an iPad that you can use to swipe. If all you have is a square of plastic, we would really appreciate it. And then finally, if you want to find out more about what's happening here, there is a contact list there on the other side of the door, just on that table. Please give us your contact information, and we would be happy to send you an email. So you don't have to even come to the website. You can find out in your inbox what it is that we're doing. It is wonderful to see you all here. I hope you're all having a good summer, and you have a good day, and blessings to you all.
Here you go, sir.
Thank you. The trick is to get it not stuck in my beard. So, normally we do like Q&A at the end, but as I said, I was hoping for more of an interactive group today. During the practice, I'm turning the microphone on now. Did Avi just leave the room? Is Avi still out here? Oh, there you go. Do you want to run the mic today? Sure. Thanks. We're going to do it now and then a little bit later as well. Who wants to share about something that arose during the practice that was lovely, that was nice, that was peaceful, that caught your attention in a good way?
Hey, Gary, I'll start things off.
All right.
Well, it was kind of relaxing. I find that I have a tendency in practice toward torpor. I find that I close my eyes for a second, and then, it's like 10 seconds of waking dreams start happening, and then I have to startle myself awake. Any thoughts on how to get past that?
Number one, don't hate it. Don't think you're doing anything wrong. Number two, sleepiness, whether it's sleepiness in the body or sluggishness in the mind, when that arises, there are some physical things you can do. If your eyes are open, or if your eyes are closed, maybe open them for a while. Straighten your posture helps bring alertness. If you're real sleepy, stand up for a while. If you're real sleepy, go take a nap. But it also...
Buddhists are nothing if not practical, right?
It is, both sleepiness and restlessness are things that are, the hindrances that we talk about. There's sleepiness, restlessness, desire, aversion, and then doubt is a big one. These things just arise in our practice. So the big thing is number one, to know that this is just something that happens in the practice, and to meet it with kindness rather than resist it. And and then maybe try some of these physical things that we can do at least with sleepiness.
The other thing I found is that the flavor of the in-breath is new energy, and the flavor of the out-breath is torpor, is release. It can lead to torpor. So I just forget the out-breath for a while and focus on the in-breath and the upsurge of energy. Here it comes again. Here it comes again. And anticipating the new energy changes the mind state a little bit. And it works the other way if you're really restless, because the new energy is feeding the restlessness. So then you forget the in-breath, focus on the out-breath, and release more. That's not what your question was, but you can use that rhythm to help you.
Yeah. Anybody really appreciate the fact that the dog didn't bark the whole time?
Hi. When I got here, I've been traveling, and I just had this overwhelming sense of gratitude of just having arrived, and just really thankful for this space and the energy in this space and the teachers, and it just felt really good. That was just a moment of just really good well-being, and gratitude's such a wonderful thing. I think we don't appreciate it enough in life, and this is a space to really appreciate gratitude as well as in the rest of our lives.
Thank you. Yeah, coming home. What a great feeling. Right? We talked about taking refuge, taking refuge in a place where we feel supported, where we feel comfortable, where we feel seen, heard, hopefully.
Thank you. A couple of things came to mind for me. One, Avi, I was thinking that maybe you could attend that shamanic breathing exercise next time they come here on Saturdays, because our breath can energize us. So deep breaths brings in lots of oxygen, and at the same time, when we're feeling anxious, we can also slow down the breathing in order to control sort of our heartbeat and our anxiety. I also wanted to thank you, Gary, for bringing this topic up, because in my opinion, it doesn't get expressed quite enough. The Eightfold Path is all about the path to happiness, and so reminding us that is really, really helpful. I always like to start meditation with gratitude, because I watched a documentary not too long ago called The Lottery of Birth, and it made very clear to me that none of us did anything to deserve our life. We all were given a life, and so just coming from that point is so sort of uplifting, and really helps me tremendously in meditation and just in life in general. So just wanted to mention those things.
Thank you. Behind you, Avi.
So I'd like to say something about two things, the importance of the breath and breathing, and then gratitude, following up on this gentleman. I've been practicing yoga for over 50 years and teaching the breath, because the pranayama to me is the most important aspect of yoga. The movements, all the rest of the limbs of yoga are a big part of it, but for me the breath was the important thing. So starting about 35 years ago, I started using the breath because I was faced with a number of surgeries, incisional surgeries. No heart replacement or anything huge, but I was able to find physicians who would work with me to allow me to just use my breath for anesthesia. And I found that I never took any anesthesia before surgery, during, or after, and I could control the bleeding, I could control my blood pressure, I could, everything. And the physicians were always, oh my God, thank goodness that she got through this. But they were willing to experiment with me about that. And then for the last number of years, I've been working with people with mental health disorders. And that's the first thing that I talk to them about is learn to breathe, learn to belly breathe, so you can control your emotions. The minute you start feeling anxious, you start belly breathing, and that shuts off the release of those stress hormones to the body. And I do this over the phone with people, I do this in person with people, and it's the breath is so powerful, and most of us have no idea how powerful that is. This year I'm keeping track of my gratitudes, and I'm writing every day a very short paragraph on my phone about something I'm grateful for, and then I put a word or two at the bottom of it. And I'm going to be creating prayer flags because I'm going to be walking the Pilgrim's Trail starting in March. So I'm going to make a huge prayer flag banner of all the things that I've been grateful for this year. And I would like to take that with me, but it's going to be too big, so I will leave it here. But it's been such an incredible experience for me every day to think of something new that I'm grateful for on that day. And it's making a huge difference in my life.
Thank you. Yeah. Well, you can sit down, Avi. Thank you. So, when I started earlier and I had people raise their hands like, if some of your intentions why you first came to groups like this, or why maybe an intention that you have in your practice, or what you hope to get out of the practice. And that certainly was my experience. I first came to Dharma groups out of just sheer desperation, that nothing else seemed to have been working. I'd tried meditation a little bit here and there, and I was convinced I was doing it wrong. And I just kept coming back to it again and again because, I think Zen Mind's Beginner's Mind, Suzuki Roshi's book, I think that was the first thing I read, and something really resonated in me, and it was the thing that I kept coming back to, and I just knew that there was something that was in me that was telling me that was the thing that was going to work. And so, I'd just drag my ass into a place like this, and I'm going to give this one more try because nothing else has worked. And so that, and as Michael said, that, and I heard a lot, coming into Buddhist groups and meditation groups, and one of the things I heard early on, somebody asked the Buddha what he taught, and he said he taught one thing. He taught suffering. Well, he said he taught dukkha and the end of dukkha. That term dukkha gets translated most commonly as suffering, but maybe dissatisfaction or stress is a better translation. So he taught, that's the foundational thing, right? First noble truth that the Buddha taught. In this life, there is dukkha. There's stress, there's dissatisfaction, there's hardships. Most commonly mistranslated thing from the Buddha, I'd say. Most of the time you see the internet memes and it says, life is suffering. Buddha. Bummer, right? It's this negative aspect. And just because of evolution, we've been ingrained with this kind of negative bias. We have this lizard brain, right? This thing that's been around for millions of years, this thing that has protected us. When there was, I couldn't figure out how to turn my phone off right there. This thing that has protected us. There's a predator coming, there's fire raging through, there's something that is dangerous. And so we're attuned to look for the thing that's going to harm us or that's going to hurt us. And depending on, the way that we were raised and what's been imprinted upon us and, and this lifetime of conditioning that we have, some of us are way more attuned to look for the negative than others. But I think, evolutionary, I think we're all kind of looking for the things that are wrong, to protect us, to save us. And when we get caught up in that, we create this negative bias, right? We're always just kind of scanning, like what's going to happen? What am I going to walk into? When's the other shoe going to drop? And, again, when I came in, and so many of us raised our hands, we came in because life was so difficult that we were setting this intention to separate ourselves from this discomfort, this fear, this resentment that we're carrying around. It's all got a little bit of this negative kind of flavor to it all. The other side of that, as Michael pointed out, the other side of that is freedom, and that's what the Buddha is pointing to. All of us have this nature to become awakened. That term, the Buddha, means awakened one. We have the opportunity, we have the potential to be free of this stuff. So rather than always thinking about kind of the negative, and I need to get rid of this thing, I need to separate myself from this thing, And maybe that's necessary in the beginning. That certainly was for me. I walked in with the biggest burdens of resentment and criticism and judgment, and I was just in my head always. I didn't know that there was any other way possible. I grew up judging everything that I did and said over and over again, just replaying in my head over and over again. And of course, that spilled out onto everybody else. And it was just this, uncomfortable. The greatest cause of my suffering was myself. And I didn't even think that there was any other way. And then, started to get kind of glimpses of it, started reading other things, being open to kind of things, getting little tastes of it here and there. And then, finally coming to practice and being committed to it. And again, my intention was just to suffer less. But as the years have gone on and my practice has deepened more and more, gratitude's been a big part of my practice. One of these Sunday things I did a while ago, I think was it 2 years ago? I talked about gratitude, and I had everybody draw on these little shipping tags, these little manila shipping tags, and I created a tree in Selwood. I put up straps and hung. We started it here, and then through the years, just thousands of things that people were grateful for. They hung it on this tree in Selwood. And you can, my favorite ones were the down low, the ones with little kid riding. I'm grateful for mommy and daddy, my puppy, that I went by recently, and the house is being sold, and the trees, all that stuff was taken down. But it lasted for years. I'm so grateful that the community took this thing in and added to it. It wasn't just this thing that I did; it was the community put this together. Again, it started here, and then in Selwood, they embraced it. Got a write up in the Bee. Just thinking about that fills me with gratitude, And we hear about gratitude. We hear about, at the end I did some practice, mudita, some phrases of mudita. The Buddha talked about that, right? He talked about these, the Brahma Viharas, these practices that help us cultivate a heart of compassion, of loving kindness, of appreciation, of equanimity, of balance. And so there are these instructions on gaining these things that are positive, that are wholesome, not just about getting rid of, about denying, about letting go, but cultivating these beautiful qualities. So we have, my favorite practice and the practice that I teach the most is metta. The group on Tuesday nights called Boundless Heart. When the Buddha when he taught metta, he talked about cultivating this boundless heart of loving friendliness for all beings, which includes ourselves. Cultivating this goodwill, this joy. The practice of compassion, this deep, not just sympathy or pity, but seeing the suffering in ourselves and others with the hope to alleviate it. So there's this wish, like I see this suffering, I hope maybe I can do something about it. Maybe I can't, but I have this hope. So it's this action practice. The mudita we did, this way to combat jealousy, envy, comparison, to see the successes and the joys in other people's lives, as well as our own, without begrudging them. Really open our hearts up and soaking this stuff in. That's been a huge practice for me, especially with other people's gains, their accomplishments in their lives. Before I think I had this idea, this kind of like this cosmic scorecard. If you got the new car, you got the new promotion, you got the new whatever, that meant my chances of getting this were even less. Just this idea of scarcity, right? And that's some. And I don't know if I've talked about that here in this seat, but this term abundance, gets thrown around in a lot of spiritual circles. For me, if somebody is promising you a practice that is going to make you money, your spiritual practice is going to make you money and make you rich, fucking run. excuse the F-bomb. But, you know, if we're talking about abundance, we can have abundance of joy, of bliss, of freedom, of peace. You know, not just being caught up in this like, I need to get rid of this stuff, I need to squash this. You know, the Buddha talked about the 3 poisons, you know, to combat hatred, greed, and delusion, right? And then there's these Brahma Viharas, these heart practices, these things that we get to unburden ourselves with, that we get to cultivate these beautiful qualities. And so, yeah. It's a big thing. There's a big difference between, and really all this stuff that we're talking about, not just with like the heart practices, but with all these practices. It's one thing to know them intellectually, to know them logically, to read about this stuff. It's great to read books and learn. This is really about knowing this stuff deeply, to realize it for ourselves firsthand. And that was the one thing, that's one of the things that drew me to Buddhism. You know, in the religion I was raised in, we were told this is the only true faith, everything else is wrong. You know, when the Buddha taught, he pretty much at the end of each of his teachings, he would say, you know, this is what's worked for me. Try this out for yourself. See if it works. If it does for a while and then it stops working, just put it down. You talk about the parable of the raft. You know, you take these teachings, you take these practices and cross this river. And when you get to the end of the river, put it down. You don't need to drag this heavy thing with you. So, yeah, it's one thing to hear about gratitude. It's one thing to even start it. I know when I first, and I've shared about this before, but when I first started a written gratitude practice, you know, I really had to get to the end of my, you know, I need to do 20 things. You know, I'm a go big or go home kind of guy. I'm going to do 20 things. At the end of that list, I was really like, spaghetti and meatballs, I don't know. But as the years have gone on, you know, it goes from this practice that's in the head to this practice that's in the heart. And, you know, and taking the time out to really soak this stuff in, like, you know, talking about in the practice. These moments, you know, of course, there's the big moments. You know, when spring hit this year and we were surrounded by all the blooming flowers and all the smells. How many of you walked through a neighborhood and those smells hit you and you just stopped and you smelled it for a while? Yeah, that's what it's about. It's not about just walking by like, oh, that's nice. Yeah. Like soaking it in. Was it the 2 ex-nuns? Was that a week ago, a couple weeks ago? Willa Reed and Elizabeth Day, ex-Buddhist nuns in this tradition, in the Insight tradition, Theravada tradition. They're from New Zealand, so they have the best accents. They still, you know, they disrobed and now they teach as layperson teachers, but they're visiting. They taught at Cloud Mountain and they came down, they did a night program here in Portland. And, you know, being from New Zealand, they wanted to check out the area. So earlier that day, Willow was talking about going to the Japanese gardens. And she was talking about how beautiful it was and that she was drinking it into her heart. And that was the thing, when I heard her say that was one of those things that just shot through me. Like, yeah, drinking into the heart. That's what it's all about. And whether, I think I've used that phrase myself out loud a lot. Certainly, I've thought about it a lot, and I think that's just the perfect description for what this is about. You know, drinking this stuff into our hearts. Nourishing ourselves, filling our hearts, because it's so easy to drain ourselves. It's so easy to, you know, or maybe to fill up with the negativity, right? I know, you know, in a lot of groups that I lead, in the beginning, we'll introduce ourselves and we'll offer some things, and a lot of times we'll land on gratitude. And, you know, sometimes people that are new to the practice, they have a really hard time thinking about 3 things that they're grateful for in the moment right now. But if you asked them, can you tell me 10 things that are wrong in your life right now? Like, no problem, right? I mean, we could all come up with probably a list of 20 things, easy, what's wrong in our lives. But, and it's not about, I think I mentioned it during the meditation, it's not about denying the difficult in our life. It's not about ignoring the difficult in our life. And that was my household that I grew up in. It was all about repression. Stuff it down. Pretend like everything's okay. I saw Pollyanna when I was a little kid, and I was like, yeah, that's my mom. But I don't have to worry about my parents watching this. They're Jehovah's Witnesses. They're not into this stuff at all. I'll say hi to my sister. Hi, Julie. Everybody say hi to Julie. That's one of the things that I'm really grateful for. Just independently, my sister really got into reading Pema Chodron years ago. And I love my sister to death. We didn't get along really well when we were kids. We fought like cats and dogs. My parents' fault, by the way. Just saying. That's the parent's job, right? To make feel that sibling rivalry is a big thing. That's a parent's job to take care of that. No judgment. But later in life, and we support each other. We love each other. She lives in California. I live up here. She has gone through a lot of medical. She's almost died a few times because of some medical conditions she's had, and her practice has really helped her get through it. Practice of metta specifically, and what? Well, she really likes Pema Chodron and kind of that Tibetan flavor. Yeah. We get to share something together, a new thing. Not some of the difficult things that we experience when we're younger, but this new good thing, this wholesome thing. And this idea of drinking this stuff into our hearts. There's another part I wanted to get in there. I started to touch on it. How many of us have heard the term spiritual bypass? Yeah, that is a real thing. And it's something, again, because of the way that I was raised with repression, I really need to make sure that I'm not using my practice to stuff down the difficult things in my life or to ignore it or run away from. Because it's easy. If we're starting to feel overwhelmed, I'm going to go meditate for 2 hours over here. I'm just going to ignore this stuff, Or, Jim and I were just talking earlier about there's people in our lives that are grieving horribly right now. Death. And, whether it's human or animal or, pet, whatever, grieving is a process. We need to be able to feel these things, to meet it with kindness, but to let us experience them. There's the wave that it comes through, right? What are the stages of grief? Denial, anger, I don't know Yeah, right. Yeah, thank you. We gotta let ourselves experience these things, not use our spiritual practice to ignore them, or to push them down, or to deny them. We can use our spiritual practice to embrace it all. And I talked about this a while ago. Philip Moffitt, who's a spirit rock teacher, great teacher. His book, Dancing with Life, I think, is one of the best foundational Buddhist books. He talks about gratitude a lot, and he calls it the and practice. So not about repression, not about denial, not about running away, but to be able to embrace it all. This new deodorant I'm working, it is not working too well today. And I love the way this shirt feels on me. Right? Got bills stacked up, and I have an opportunity to do some extra work this month and pay them off. There's difficult stuff, and there's good stuff at the same time. So not about spiritual bypass, but about being able to hold it all with like this, right? Not clinging, because everything's going to change and shift and pass eventually, but to hold it like this. Loving arms, hands, embracing it all. The difficult. I posted something online kind of recently, embracing the suck and the sublime. Sounds like it should be a bumper sticker. I'm not going to do it, but this is the part that I really wanted to open it up and to really make this more of an interactive group. We do, again, as I said, we come to these groups as, a lot of us through the years, I've heard, I haven't met her, I've heard of one person that showed up later in her life that said her life was great, and right at the end of her life, she wanted to learn meditation just because she thought she could make her life even better. I've heard about one person. Everybody else comes because life's really difficult. And, whether we set these intentions to let go of things, to use our practice to transform these things, to transcend these difficult moments or these difficult things that we're carrying around. But, some of us have had a practice for a while. Some of us have gratitude practices. I wanted us to share about this stuff this morning. I wanted us to go around the room and share things in your life that are good. This doesn't need to be profound. This isn't a competition, but this is the time to brag a little bit. Share about what's going on that's good in your life. And as we go around the room and talk about this stuff, allow yourself, when you hear these things, drink the stuff into your heart. Don't just, don't get caught up in the oh, that's nice, that's their thing, and why am I not getting this? Try to embrace this, drink it into the heart. Yeah, they're happy, why can't I be happy for them? They have these good things in life, I can achieve these things too eventually. Or I can get my own good things in life. So, Avi's got a microphone, and we're going to shower that thing with joy.
Hey Gary, can I put
Bless.
in a comment?
Sure.
On what you said?
Yeah.
When you talked about the word "and," that really struck me about how that is a spiritual application of the guideline for improv comedy. Because if anybody knows anything about improv, what is the rule in improv comedy? It's
Yes, and.
yes and. Yes and. Because but negates and includes. And it works. I've found, because I'm part of an improv troupe called Portland Playback Theater, and one of the things I've learned is that those principles really work just in the regular work that I do with people. If it is about and with somebody, even if I'm disagreeing with them, then we have collaboration. But if it becomes about but, then it means that somebody is right and somebody is wrong. And it's a lot more difficult. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
I know you want to start with all of the good stuff, but I have a question. Can I ask it?
Yeah.
So you were talking earlier about the boundless heart practice and how we can open up to all the places to have compassion for them, and maybe I can do something to help. For me, it seems like there are so many places in the world right now that could use some help, and I feel overwhelmed by all of those places and almost paralyzed in making the choice of where I can maybe help.
Yeah.
And I want to help everywhere. And I'm wondering how you handle that overabundance of possibility.
Yeah. So a couple things. The first thing I thought of, I think, is it Mr. Rogers that said when he was little, his mother told them when there was a disaster to look at the helpers. You know, and I volunteered with the American Red Cross with the disaster team years ago, and it's when there's horrible things that are happening, I've kind of cultivated this way of seeing all the helpers. You know, that there is so many people out there doing good things. Yes, there's pain and there's suffering and there's, pollution and violence, and there's all these people that are doing good things about it. So there's that part of it, you know, just to be able to look at it, not just being focused on the negative, but, you know, being able to then there's a lot of great programs and people with great hearts and these inspirational people out there doing lovely, wonderful, transformative things. And then as part of our practice, I think the big key thing is really cultivating some discernment, right discernment. So it's not about reacting immediately to everything that's going wrong. I need to do that, spreading ourselves thin all over the place. Kind of taking a step back and really figuring out where our talents could be best used. Not spreading ourselves thin, really, another big part about it, if we're doing any kind of service work, any kind of, helping, any kind of social work, one of the biggest things we need to practice is self-care, because it's so easy to get burned out on it. So, it all boils down to balance, right? Making an informed choice, making a good choice, putting your energy where it could be used the best, and then making sure that you're replenishing your heart, you're filling your heart up. Yeah.
I have a joy thing. I was
Kate.
biking yesterday, and I came to the end of the bike path, and there was a black duck. Bill, feet, the whole duck was black. I'd never seen a duck like this, and I'm like, this is odd. So I went back, and I brought food and water, and sure enough, this duck had clipped wings. I could finally see when it stretched out. And so 2 homeless people helped me catch the duck, which I put in a backpack and rode home. And it is now in our yard in a pool having a wonderful time. And I got to tell you, I love this duck.
What'd you name the duck? Daffy, of course. Thank you.
I am very grateful for Jim Dalton. My personal private name for him is the Angelic Being. Kind of double, because he loves to use the word agency a lot. And he's given me a new appreciation for that word agency. And I did take the 4-hour Qigong, which was wonderful. Highly recommend it. In fact, I've now started that as a daily practice. Thank you, Jim, for that. And he's here every Sunday. I mean, every time I see it, he's here, right? Talk about faithfulness. Talk about contribution. And I just feel all warm and fuzzy when I see Jim Dalton.
This is something that brought me joy. I decided about 10 or 12 years ago that I was going to go back to school, and I started with a gerontology program at PCC, and it was quite difficult to take an old man and put him into a classroom with all kinds of young, fast-talking people that I couldn't understand exactly what they were saying. But anyway, at one point they were commending several of us in this gerontology program for coming back to go to school after being out of school for 20 years. And so they said, we're going to put a little pamphlet together on that kind of returning to school, that kind of turning your life around in that way. and they were going to do a photo shoot next Saturday. Okay, so I show up, there was nobody else there. And they were, they had, so anyway, they're taking my picture, and I'm suddenly realizing that this is the digital age. This guy doesn't need to process, photos. He's shooting. He must have shot 240 shots and just all kinds of stuff. And I'm fascinated with that. And this woman is asking me questions, and I'm kind of half attending to her questions. And then I left with my little Fred Meyer's reward card for $25. So the next thing I know, I go back to the PCC cafeteria, and there's an 8-foot poster hanging from the ceiling with me hanging there, and one of the quotes from my conversation with this woman, which I didn't recognize at all. I had forgotten everything about that. I was fascinated with the camera and the photography. Then they put the same picture on the side of a truck that moves materials from one campus to another. And as my daughter and her 2 little twin daughters are driving down the street, they say, "Hey, there's Papa." And so my daughter said, "Well, when Papa went back to school, and when you go back to school, sometimes they take your picture because that's kind of unusual." And she was trying to explain how I got on this truck. And then next year they started school, and they wanted to know where they could go to get their truck picture.
Dave, y'all drinking the stuff in your hearts?
Work? Is it on? Okay. I'm very, very grateful for this place and all of you for welcoming me. I started coming to the Tuesday Boundless Heart group at the beginning of the year, and only missed a couple of times. And I'm grateful for the opportunity to learn and grow and start chipping away at the negative stuff that I've been holding on to. And if we are going to pick people out, I have to say I'm extremely grateful for Gary, who welcomed me like a brother I never knew I had. And without any reservation, any hesitation, he was just there, and he was kind and loving, and there it was. And so thank you, and thanks to all of you.
Thank you, Dave.
Thank you. Avi, since you mentioned about the children's program and how these, my daughters and many of our kids are down there, and I just appreciate Teacher Rebecca and this program for putting it together, because she really is doing her best and a really good job at trying to teach our young ones who are very young mindfulness and meditation and a loving heart. So I appreciate that.
When I turned over the microphone to Jim and I went to get a drink, I went to get some tea, they were doing the Thich Nhat Hanh song, breathing in, breathing, that it was, I had to stop and just like soak it in. That there was a great teacher that lived in the area named Jana, what was her last name? Jana, she was a Thich Nhat Hanh teacher. She died last year. Her widowed husband still holds sweat lodges in Battleground, Washington. And there's still this kind of Thich Nhat Hanh flavor to it. We'll be in the sweat lodge. He calls it an all-nation sweat lodge. It's not a traditional Lakota sweat lodge, but we'll sing that song and a couple other Thich Nhat Hanh songs during the sweat lodges, and it just brings so much joy. And then I get to think about Jana. She was just such a lovely person, and is not here anymore. But you still relish in that love and that appreciation.
I guess what I was thinking about just now with gratitude is the abundance of the availability of the Dharma. I walk to work and I like podcasts, and there's Dharma teachers, and I can listen to a Dharma talk to and from work. Jim recommended a book to me, and I Google searched it, and it came up with like the name of the book and PDF. This was just in the Google search, and I clicked on PDF, and it like jumped into my download file without my even asking for it. And so I've been reading the PDF on my computer, and you know, there's PIMC and other places here in Portland. And I think 100 years ago, you probably would have had to be lucky just to be born somewhere where there was someone who knew about Buddhism, and what you'd have available is what that person knew about Buddhism. And now with technology, it feels like it's just kind of time and interest that might limit someone, because all of it's surrounding us. So that feels nice. I feel like I've had so much growth in the past 2 years coming here, and also seeking out other resources, and it's just been such a benefit to my life and my experience in the world.
Thanks, Mickey.
Okay, got a twofer here. First you, and then, okay.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. I'm the new guy here. Can you hear me? Is it on? Okay.
Little closer to your
A little
mouth.
closer, okay. I'm grateful that I stumbled upon John Yates or Kuladasa's book on Vipassana. And I'm currently stuck in my meditation practice with purification of the mind-body. I'm grateful that I'm working on it. It's, excuse my French, really fucking hard work. Really hard work. And I didn't know that there was so much stuffed inside of this body that is coming out. And I'm grateful that it is. I don't know what the end product's going to be, but it's already better than the starting material. So I'm just grateful for that.
Yeah, thanks. The Mind Illuminated is the book he was referring to. Really good book. The Mind Illuminated. Yeah, it's an instruction manual on really deepening your practice. It's not so much a beginner's book, but it's a pretty wonderful resource. Yeah. Hi.
Hi, my name's Jeff, and I'd like to express some thankfulness for the way that life can turn. When I was an old boy and a young man, I suppose, I taught myself how to play several different instruments, but at the time it was primarily a refuge from the world and not so much a sharing. But I did become reasonably proficient at a couple of them. And now, in the last year here, I've had a chance to start playing music again, and specifically, there is a group of folks that are, many of which are stroke victims and survivors, and they gather together and play music, and I've been able to become a part of that. Not that I'm a stroke victim, but just to be there and to play. And it feels like that it's a bit like breathing, I suppose. You know, I was breathing in after a fashion when I was learning to play these instruments. And now I get to sort of breathe out and share that. And I just feel it's just a wonderful addition to my life, and I'm very, very thankful about it.
Thank you. So, you know, this is it. This is the path. You know, it's finding balance, rooted in reality. This isn't make-believe. It's not denying. It's not running away from. It's being able to embrace it all. And so, you know, again, as I mentioned earlier, maybe we showed up to suffer less. Maybe we showed up to unburden ourselves of this negative stuff, this heavy stuff. But now the task is to find out what brings you joy, to what brings you happiness. That what's wholesome, what's pure, what's good, that's going to nourish your hearts. And we get to do it together. So thank you for letting me be here today. Big love to everybody on the internet. And yeah, shout out to everybody. Say hi to Mark Winkle right now. My best friend, going through a difficult time, and I love you. And yeah. So send some of this joy out to some of the people that are struggling in your lives right now. Share this wholesome energy out to those that are having a hard time. So are the kids there? All right, let's bring them in. For those of you that haven't been here before, we circle around the room. You can hold hands if you want. If you don't feel right about doing it, maybe just touch shoulders. So, just looking around the room, looking at everybody that's here today, whether they're a friend or a soon-to-be friend, just meeting everyone with some appreciation. Knowing that we all have difficulties and hardships in our life, and we have joy and love and bliss. We get to share in this together. So maybe if it feels right, taking a hand, is that okay? Thank you. You've given a little squeeze to the hand on your right, wishing them happiness and peace and appreciation. Giving a little squeeze to the hand on your left, wishing them the same. Connecting your heart to the hearts to the right and the left, and to all the other hearts throughout the circle. And who gets to sing this morning? Okay. One, two, three.
May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. May all beings be happy. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
If you don't know what sadhu means, it means yay, or word, may it be so. Yeah, amen. Thank you all for coming today. Your assignment today is to go drink in all the good things into your heart that you experience throughout the rest of the day. Thank you. Oh, yeah. Who wants to blow out the candle? Or we all do. Oh, yeah. Everybody taking a big, deep breath in and blow it out. Yeah, there we go.